Good morning, good afternoon all. We are pleased to bring you together today for this 30-minute webinar dedicated to the new challenges facing data teams in this new normal context and how to leverage augmented data capacity options. In summary, whether you are data engineers, analysts, scientists, or members of the data team, what are the levers that you can activate? During this webinar, we will come back to the state of play of increasingly complex data environments. Then we will figure out how to streamline the flow of data and achieve the creation of value. And finally, which technologies and best practices to keep in mind. Of course, do not hesitate to share your questions with us via the chat, and we will answer them at the end of the session. To start this webinar, I'm pleased to introduce Nicolas Korchia, co-founder and Chief Operation Officer of Indexima, whom I will be exchanging with today, And I am your host today, Laetitia, and I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Indexima. Hello, Nicolas.
Hello, Laetitia. Hello, everybody.
So let's kick it off. The first observation that we can make is that of data environments which are becoming more and more complex. The first level of complexity is linked to the multiplication of data sources, which has the direct effect of making data flows more complex. Feeding the BI chain to meet the challenges of data-driven strategies is a real gymnastics between internal and external sources and cloud business applications. We are talking about an average of 400 data sources, multi-formats used in a company for BI and analytics operations. The second level of complexity arises from the diversification of storage technologies. Massive collection initiatives have pushed companies to invest in multiple technologies to store and structure their data assets in order to meet their BI and analytics needs. SQL relational databases, NoSQL architectures, data lakes, data warehouses for infrastructure, then data quality or data wrangling, governance, discovery, and referencing or integration tools, and obviously the deployment options, cloud or not. The accumulation of sources and the complexity of system is seen as an obstacle to BI projects for 45% of data specialists. The third level of complexity is an indirect effect. This is the lengthening of the cycle necessary for the creation of value in BI. In other words, data teams spend more time performing data collection, integration, and cleansing tasks than analyzing it, their primary function, to make it edible by the users. 40% of data teams say they spend more than half of their time trying to access and prepare data. While the increasing complexity of data environments is more than a silent issue, this is not the only one. And Nicolas, could you share with us the other elements of complexity?
For sure, Laetitia. Indeed, that's not all. To the technical complexity inherent in data is added that of its human context. First, the pressure of speed. We even say your business is only as fast as your data. It means your business will never be faster than your data. Businesses need access to the right data with the right granularity and in a record time. Thus, the business lines are more and more demanding but not very satisfied, Laetitia. To this pressure is added the weight of the result. In a world that increasingly wants to be self-service, complexity is increasing in order to best contain bad interpretations. Then,— let's talk about the multiplication of the functions that are overcrossing in the companies. Data engineers and analysts find themselves confronted with a natural extension of their functions to that of the high-profile data scientists. When ultimately, they do not have the same function in the organization, this data engineer and this analyst. As a result, friction arises, sometimes opposing roles that are only made to coexist within the same team. However, as nature abhors a vacuum, the data ecosystem has begun to think about new roles to fill those voids. Thus, the data modeler, data translator, data explorer could well support data scientists, data engineers, data analysts, data stewards, and all those data stuffs we can find in the teams. Laetitia, I can't explain the mess that is happening in the teams. Finally, let's have a look at the technical arsenal needed to address all of this. Obviously, the data team must be fluent in SQL. But a data engineer must also master, in addition to SQL, NoSQL databases, big data environment, Hadoop, Hive, MapReduce, Spark, BI and database tools used by the business lines, Qlik, Tableau, MicroStrategy, Looker, without forgetting the unbeatable Excel. But also to open up to programming language like Python, Scala, or R. All the pressure mentioned above pushes the members of the data team to take an individual approach to achieve their goals. A recent study tells us that 70% of data professionals, even if they are overrated, must learn new programming methods to imagine workarounds just to access to the data and to prepare it. In summary, Laetitia, data team must move faster towards the right data without taking into account organizational silos and constantly learning to adapt to emerging technologies.
Indeed, Nicolas, thank you first of all, and then it looks being not that easy, but based on these findings, there are nonetheless levers to be activated for the data and analytics teams in order to streamline data flows and therefore achieve value creation. The first lever, I would say the cloud. This is definitely the vector that allows greater flexibility and agility, especially in analytical use cases by offering one, possibilities for increasing IT resources and on-demand analytics. Second, to move the entire chain of BI process at scale. And ultimately, to increase the performance of dashboards directly displayed to the users. The second lever is the other area of optimization. This is the fluidification of the data pipelines to guarantee performance to users. The question that we need to ask is the following. What response times are we prepared to endure to see the right data appear in the dashboards? Avoiding building complex data flows has virtuous effect in exposing data. By reducing the steps that lead to this data exposure, data teams have the ability to directly impact performance.
You're so right, Laetitia. Thank you for these 2 points. I would add to this that one of the major breaks being the manual programming of data pipelines. By automating these processes via machine learning and its self-service, self-learning algorithms, the data team then breaks an important barrier, that of the essential scaling to absorb the ever-growing volume of data. This automation also has direct benefits of its ensuring This automation also has the direct benefits of ensuring a consistent level of data quality while the volume of data continues to grow. But Laetitia, you are going to ask me one thing. By automating via machine learning algorithms, by killing manual data marts, are we also killing the data ops business? Well, yes. For the benefits of an increase in data engineers, data teams save time. The time they were wasting finding the right data. The time they were wasting simplifying large volume by hand. This team can then focus on finding value from the data, which brings much more to the businesses. The data then becomes a product, and the company set up a data product manager to manage product development, data development, in order to maximize the value provided to users.
Okay, so now we've shared the 4 levels that could be options, but then, Nicolas, the question for me is how to implement this. I mean, you are now in charge of operations at Indexima. You should get an idea.
Indeed, Laetitia, I have an idea to move forward. This is also with my experience as BI and Big Data manager that I will answer you. You know, we often talk about time to market. How long does it take to maximize the implementation of a product in order to derive value from it? Well, I am talking about time to data. What is the time needed to extract the value from a data? How many days, weeks, months does it take to derive the value from a row of data? At Indexima, we do everything to bring this time as close as possible to 0. And I will explain you, Laetitia, how it works. You know, in the data ecosystem, there is data coming from many different sources, files, SQL data warehouse, and so on.
Yeah.
And on the top of this data, there is data analytics applications like Tableau, MicroStrategy, Power BI, Looker, Excel, and so on. Okay. Indexima is this software layer that is positioned between the two to simplify and to speed up use. And we do this thanks to machine learning algorithms, which in particular do what the best data engineers historically did. But you know what? You would prefer see it through a demo?
Sure.
Sure. So let's have a look at a real life demo. In the demo, I will use an open source data. This data is coming from New York Yellow Cab taxi data. It's travelers. And those travelers are loaded into Snowflake. You know, this very fast data cloud warehouse, this very fast cloud data warehouse in the cloud.
Super cloud data warehouse.
Sorry. There is billions of rows, in fact, 5 billion of rows, no data preparation, and it's a simple schema with one fact table containing the trips and one dimension tables that helps us to make an association in between GPS coordinates and zip code, you know, different areas of New York City. On top of this data, I will use Tableau, this database tool that we all know. Let's have a look at the dashboard I built on top of this data in Snowflake. Let's forget the slides. Open up Tableau. So here, I built a Tableau dashboard on top of my 5 billion trips. let's get connected to Snowflake. And let's see what happened. You can see here, New York.
Yes.
Okay, and you can see Manhattan with a different zip code.
Yeah.
Okay. As I said, in the data source, you will find the fact table with 5 billion rows and the dimension table that helps us to translate GPS coordinates into zip codes. And if you have a look over there, you can see that the connection is live. Mm-hmm. It means that each time I will interact with my Tableau dashboard, Tableau will ask some questions to Snowflake. Okay, so let's have a look at the application, which is over there. On the left, you can see the different zip codes. And on the right, you can see the different measure. The number of rides, it's exactly the same as the number of lines, because in fact there is one line for each ride. Okay. The number of passengers, the average tips, and the evolutions of the fare around the years. Okay. Okay. And if I click on the left, and if I select some zip codes, the measure on the right will be updated. Okay. Okay, and this is thanks to the power of Snowflake, which will receive some SQL queries on these 5 billion rows. And you know what, Laetitia? It's not super interactive. It's not super interactive, but it is still very fast. I mean, 20 seconds in order to have answer to SQL questions on 5 billion rows, this is super fast. Okay. Okay, but you're right. At the very end, the businesses find it too slow. I mean, 20 seconds, even if it's huge because it's 5 billion rows, it's not enough fast. And they want to get it faster. And this is what we will do together with Indexima. Okay. Okay. So you've seen that application, and my aim is to speed up that application coming from scratch. So let's go inside Indexima and let's see together what we can do in order to speed up that. So first, I'm opening my Indexima application that is set up just behind demo.indexima.io. And the first thing I will make is plug in Indexima on top of Snowflake. Okay. Okay, so I will say to Indexima, please get connect to my Snowflake cluster using exactly the same parameters that I've set up before in Tableau. I connect, and here Indexima is interacting with Snowflake in order to ask the question, what are the tables that Nicolas can interact with? Here are the tables. I will use my table. I do not remember if it's destination or origin, so I take both. My fact table. So in a few clicks, I've put Indexima on top of Snowflake. Okay. That's it. All my data engineering has been done. And you will find on the right my new schema with my 3 tables. Okay. Okay. Now let's go back to Tableau. And inside Tableau, since I put Indexima on top of Snowflake, I need to put Tableau connected to Indexima. Right. Right. So let's get connected to Indexima. It's here. My demo cluster is that one, demo.indexima.io. I do not share my password. And in fact, you will see that it's exactly the same model, you know, with my fact table on the right, on the left, and my dimension table on the right. Okay. The 2 same tables, the same columns, everything is the same. And if I go back in my app, I still have one thing to tell to Tableau that Indexima is in between Tableau and Snowflake right now, is to replace the Snowflake data source by the Indexima data source. Okay. So in a few clicks together, coming from scratch, from 0, we've put Indexima in between Tableau and Snowflake. And then let's go in the overview. So I click here.
It's a bit long.
It's not super fast.
You've promised me kind of super fast analytics, Nicolas.
You're right, Laetitia. It's not super fast till now because we are coming from scratch. So till now, the engine do not know what are the pattern of SQL queries to optimize. So first, we need to train the model. So I will make different interactions on my dashboard so that the engine, and if we look together what is making the engine right now, okay, you can see here all the queries sent by Tableau to my cluster. Here you can see it's still running. And in fact, those queries are new queries for the engine. So the engine needs to be trained. And here, if you go deeper over there, you can see that in fact, these queries that was sent to demo.indexima.io just got delegation to Snowflake.
Okay.
For now, Indexima is just like a proxy.
Okay.
But you know what? This proxy is smart and is having a look at what is happening right now. Let's make a bit more learning for Indexima. One more time, and we will have to wait those 20 seconds that Snowflake needed to answer to that question. It's a selection, my zip code, in order to compute the average amount of tips and the evolutions of amounts by the years. So, yeah, in a few minutes, we have sent some queries to Indexima. Let's see together how difficult it is to optimize this table. I will go there, click on my new table, and I click here on one single button, last day tuning optimization. Here, with this click, only click, I tell to the engine that it's the right moment, the right instant to optimize my table. And the engine has predict that the two indexes to be built are those one. So the first one was built in 16 seconds, and the other one will come with the same speed. So let's wait a few seconds more. Okay, two indexes. Let's go back to Tableau and have a look at what is happening right now. If I select here,
that's performing.
Look at that, how fast it is. And you can see blinking in blue, just below, this is all the queries that we can make. And look, it was 20 seconds. Right now, it's no more 20 seconds, it's 7 milliseconds, 23 milliseconds, 100 milliseconds. It's super fast. And we are still on those 5 billion rows.
This is game changer.
Yeah, I love that. Let's think a bit more. Look, it's so fast. I love it. So let's go back to the slide. Together, here in this demo, we've put Indexima in between Tableau and Snowflake. Okay, in order to speed up my Tableau dashboard on top of my Snowflake data. But in fact, Indexima can also speed up any database. I mean, Tableau, Click, Power BI, Excel, Looker, MicroStrategy, Cognos, and so many more. On top of any data sources, files on S3, files on GCP, files on Hadoop, Oracle, BigQuery, Snowflake, and so many more. And Indexima is this layer that you put in between in order to simplify, to accelerate, and to reduce cost. Because you know what, Laetitia? Right now, my Snowflake is no more used. So my Snowflake cluster will just go to sleep. And I will no more be charged on top of that.
That's good news.
That's good news because my Snowflake cluster was a double XL cluster.
Whoa.
It's huge. It's a $64 an hour cluster. Millions in a year. In summary, as part of this webinar, we shared with you the four levers for optimizing the data pipeline of data team. The goal for this data team is to ensure the creation of value. First axis, remember, was the agility and flexibility of the cloud. Data team need to activate it. Here in the demo, we've worked together on an AWS platform deployed in 15 minutes. Just a few clicks on the marketplace. I consider that this was demonstrated. Then Laetitia, as a levers, you've explained us the second axis, streamline the data pipeline to ensure performance for users. In our use case, we saw how to really do instant analytics on 5 billion rows while keeping costs under control. In my demo, my cluster was a $4 an hour cluster, only 2 nodes, very small. Check. The third axis was a question of process automation as not to waste time generating data pipelines by hand. I had to use no more than 3 clicks in the UI to set up my super fast dashboard. No data engineer intervention. Check. This was done too. And finally, we were talking about these days or this death of the data engineer position. And we were talking about, that is becoming the new data expert. In order to take advantage of automation to focus on the real value it brings to the company by being more proactive with business teams on day-to-day and strategic aspects. In a few words, let's take advantage of automation together. Don't be afraid to make room for robots for low-value added tasks.
Thank you very much, Nicolas, for being demonstrated those levels in actions, if I may say. So now it's time for questions. So do not hesitate to use the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. And we've got now the first question is around data synchronization. Nicolas, could you explain a bit more how does it work to synchronize the data in between the data sources and Indexima?
In fact, it's very simple. When you create a table on top of Snowflake or any other data source, it creates a link in between Indexima and this data source. In this case, in Snowflake, it's called stream. And in fact, with those streams, Indexima can ask very often in an hour what has changed into Snowflake, so that when there is new lines or moving lines in the Snowflake data source, Indexima knows that, and Indexima is able to reindex the data. And this is very fast, a few seconds for 1 million rows.
Perfect, thank you so much. I'm afraid we are at the top of the hour, so we will answer the other questions just afterwards. So we've shared with you today to the extent to which data teams can take advantage of augmented solutions, particularly automation, to meet the growing and pressing challenges accentuated by the famous new normal environment, to streamline data flows in order to materialize the creation of value from data. Indexima's mission is to give businesses instant access to all their data. Indexima right now supports companies, including leaders in the banking, insurance, IoT, media, retail, and public services sectors. The entire team remains at your disposal for any further information. Have a great day, everyone, and see you soon.